Hello and welcome here to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 as Germany in vanilla. I am one proud Bavarian and I'm happy to have you here. What we're going to do is something extremely vanilla, so most people have already done it, probably the most common playthrough on YouTube. We're going to play the German Reich, we're going to play fairly historical, and we're going to try to conquer everything that exists. Or not truly conquer, but we want every single nation to be fascist, because that is an achievement. And I'm gonna try to go for it. We're gonna play without the historical AI focuses on, so it will be off in turn, simply because I think it'll make it more interesting. I will not absolutely power game, I will try to keep it to a basic minimum of power gaming, but you know, if necessary, you gotta do what you gotta do. We will play of course on Ironman mode so that we are eligible for achievements. So let's dive right in. Ironman German Reich 1, Germania. So this essentially boils down to probably the most common played nation in any Paradox game that has Germany in it, because playing Germany in itself is a meme, and we're gonna do just that because we are what they refer to as meme lovers. Now first things first, we have to mark down a coastline, as everybody does, that our garrison army will be securing. I'm already, as you can see, marking down areas we're not holding yet, because that way I don't have to do it later. I can just mark everything and be done with it. Alright, so right now we need 7 units in there. We won't put them in there just yet because there's no point. We're not in a rush. The war won't start until a while later. Beyond that, I will just create the standard kind of unit formations here, and I think, oh yeah, only the mobile units were left. And then let's start with a left right left combo. Those are the standard technologies everybody always starts with because they're just that good. And our last one will go into artillery. So we will start of course with the Rhineland so that we finish it in March and can then progress further down. We will start by building some synthetic refineries because it will save us some civilian industry from trading, and it will also make it so that we're not completely cut off should the war go wrong. I will trade for my oil with Venezuela because I do not think that they will actually join in the war against me, which means essentially that I'm not strengthening my enemies. And then let's put in some work over here. Perfect. Alright, let's take another look. That's fine. That's also fine. We might have to buy more over here. We'll see. No divisions in basic training, of course. Let's do 7 rounds of 10 units. And an additional 4 times 3 and an additional 3 times 3. You will spawn in Nürnberg, you will spawn in Dortmund, and you will spawn in Magdeburg. So right now what you just saw was my screen leaving, my mouse leaving the left screen. I am on a 2-screen setup and sometimes it goes wrong, but not this time. Where's what? Oh, this is the completely abandoned trade tab. I understand. Portugal I think is fine. Venezuela, give me more. There we go. Beautiful. So we will be historical in the sense that we will do the Anschluss in 38, Czechoslovakia in 38-39, and then in early or summer 39 we will invade Poland, and maybe we're gonna do the invasion of Paris already in fall 1939, or we will wait until January, February 1940. We'll see. I've seen that there was a challenge to capitulate both of them before 1940, and maybe we can do that, maybe we can't. I'm not quite certain yet. So why am I actually doing this? It's such a you know, standard. It's almost a trope in Hearts of Iron games to just do a gross Germanium run. I'm doing it simply because I've had a really bad experience 2 days ago and I need some ego. I was playing multiplayer with some friends in Road to 56, and I was France turning communist, and a friend of mine was Switzerland who also turned communist, and we were the 4th International. The third player was the United Kingdom, and he went fascist and then destroyed us in 1943, which felt fairly bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial in, gonna get some ego, gonna get pumped and absolutely destroy the AI to regain my feeling of self-worth. So you are an attacking unit. I will give you Vader von Bock. You are the dudes up here, which means that I will give you... Let's take a look here. I think the... Oh, okay. I think he will actually become a paratrooper now that I've looked at it. And then down there we need a commander that is good in the defense. Let's take a look here. Manstein. Sure, Manstein it is. Yeah. Alright, and now we just wait essentially. Yeah, we will also deactivate all of these decisions. I find most of them to be completely pointless, so I just don't use them at all. Today is the 21st of May, and it's been 2 days since Paradox announced all of their new DLC and then the new game Johan is producing at ParadoxCon, or rather PDXCon. But you know how it is and all that. I think there's a lot to talk about in that regard, and I'm going to do just that. I think that they absolutely blew it out of the water, you know. They came on stage, they announced DLC for all of their major new franchises. When it comes to Stellaris, they didn't announce the DLC, they rather gave up the release date of the DLC, which is tomorrow from my perspective, so it's the 22nd, Wednesday. And I must admit, I was actually incredibly impressed by all of this, because not a single part of that DLC lineup is weak. You know, you have Holy Fury from CK2, which is essentially just everything we've ever wanted in an addition to CK2, because what was kind of lackluster was the actual Crusader game, and they're buffing that, they're changing it up, they're probably enabling crusades that aren't just for the Holy Land or, you know, such stuff. You in real life had crusades against pagans, against heresies and so on, and I want to see that. It looks incredibly interesting. And beyond that, you also have the option to turn on a randomly generated Europe, either where everything is kind of split up and small, or, and this is the big part in my opinion, yep, the Rhineland has been remilitarized, by the way. We're just gonna be alright with that and do the 4-year plan. Or, and this is incredibly interesting to me, or you can do a randomly generated Europe that has equivalents of our real life Europe in them. For example, you know, French nation, or an English nation, or a Byzantium, and they're strong, they're pretty good, and it's just incredible. I must admit, I'm very much impressed with that DLC in particular. The Dharma DLC for EF4 doesn't sound bad, but I'm not really, you know, exactly amazed by it. I'm not a big India guy, so we'll see how it comes out. But for now, it sounds very solid, but just not for me personally. What else came out? We had, he's doing the Great Patch, Fighter Focus, Home Defense, Mare Nostrum. Oh, okay, they're actually going down the historical route. Sweet. Yeah, alright. So, you know, it's just, Dharma is not particularly for me. They also announced Age of Wonders Planetfall, which I'm very excited for. Magic plus sci-fi is an incredible combination that you don't find all that often. You should always consider that, even if you're not initially pulled in by that game. But the only real sci-fi magic scenario that we have is Star Wars, and I would argue that that's not really a genre that is suited for 4X experience these days. since the IP is exclusively used for bad multiplayer shooters. What else have they announced? They've announced the date for Stellaris. I already mentioned that. Huge impact, huge exploration changes. Everything is just, that's so good for immersion, for role-playing, for an early game that is actually fun, for everything when it comes to making a better game, really. So they've announced that, and let me think. Hearts of Iron 4, they've announced Man the Guns, which is huge. Comes with huge changes to naval battles because right now, so when you look at this fleet, this one in particular, if I sent these into a fight, the destroyers would always be first engaged, which means that they just die, they're cannon fodder, they get ripped apart by the heavier ships in the distance that they cannot shoot yet, while the heavier ships take a long time to come in. With the new DLC, you will be able to set something like task forces, which means you can tell them what to do. You can give them, you know, for example, the order to stay close to the, I'm brain dead, by the way. To stay close to the heavier ships, which makes it so that they are just supporting units, which is the actual role in combat on the sea. They also add naval terrain, for example, open sea, coastal sea, it's been a long day, you know. Archipelagos. You know what I'm saying, alright? And I think that will have a huge impact when it comes to positioning. And they're reintroducing fuel as a mechanic. They had it in Hearts of Iron 3, and I think it was a great mechanic. So I'm looking forward to that coming back. And beyond that, we're going to get an alternative history focus tree for the UK and for the US. Big changes, I can tell you that much. Ethiopia actually did manage to get annexed by Italy now. So Italy has a chance to actually go down the proper Triumph in Africa tree, which is the entire foreign policy tree. We don't really have any interesting other developments as of now. I wonder why the Spanish Civil War hasn't kicked off yet. I guess there's still time until June, July. That's when it should normally occur. Because I'm hyped. The Spanish Civil War is the major civil war, the major kind of thing that keeps you busy as Germany in the early months, because you don't do much. You just hang out, build up your stuff, you know, take some decisions like this one. You always got to take this to keep the allies off your back, or else they're gonna be real nasty with you. Take a look here. We just finished this. Gonna do that, and gonna do our first doctrine for sure. Alright, so I think we've produced one refinery by now. So what I will do is I will put some good old military factories into the production cycle so that I don't have to do it later. And here we have the first units. We'll assign them actually to the army that does all the sitting around at the ports. But yeah, so they've announced all of that, all of those DLC. Man, the guns is going to be really good because it brings a complexity back to Hearts of Iron 4 that the devs wanted to avoid. Not saying they wanted to simplify it or dumb it down. I think it's more about trying to implement systems that actually work, and the supply system in Hearts of Iron 3, as much as I love the game, didn't work properly, so integrating it right from the start would probably have been a mistake. But now that they are deciding to bring back fuel, I think it's some system that they must have thought about a lot, and that probably will work out. Alright. And here comes the big topic. Imperator Rome. I actually was so hyped because, you know, we had the chance of getting a really good grand strategy game, and I was certain it would be Rome if we would be getting one from Johan, because it was the 10-year anniversary of EU Rome, the game being released, and here we are. It is a Rome successor, not in name, but in spirit and in its nature, because the mechanics that we've seen so far, the pops, you know, the trade route management, etc., etc., are all built up on the basics that they had going in Europa Universalis Rome, but never really were able to do too much with, because back in the day it was tough to actually keep that system going. Or to implement it in a good way, rather. You will be the 16th army. You will be 16th army. Did I give you a different color? No. It'll be the 4th army. Okay. And you will be our good old 7th army, sure. You will be the garrison, which means you get the boring this one. And you will be the 1st Panzer Army. So, at the end of the day, what it came down for me when he actually presented it is that it's, you know, the day before, so it was Friday, Frederick Westers, who's currently still the CEO of Paradox, who will switch into the board of directors in August, I believe, he said that Victoria 3 isn't coming until somebody declares that he wants to champion the project, you know, until somebody says, hey, this is my baby, I want to take care of this game and I want to make it as great as can be. And since this appears to be the general modern design philosophy of Hearts of Iron and of Paradox, because Stellaris is Wiz baby, Hearts of Iron 4 is Podcat's baby, Crusader Kings 2 is Henrik's baby, and Europa Universalis Rome, or Imperator Rome, will be Johan's baby. So I think if we follow this logic, the game we're going to get with Imperator is like Johan's wet dream of a Rome game. I know it sounds a bit lewd, albeit not intended, but I think that's exactly it. You know, you declare, hey, I want to do this job because that's exactly where I want to be. I would love to make a game like this. Renewal of the Rome protocols? Sure. I'm going to give... I'm going to give our good old... the defense. Sure. There you go, Guderian. Wait, can you get another one? Oh, you actually can. Jesus. This one terrain traits. Yeah, I think this is fine. So, what we're going to see here is essentially Johan that is incredibly pumped to make a game. And I think that is rare in the game industry, where you actually can choose. You know, of course, it's not an entirely free choice, but where you can pretty much choose, hey, I want to do this because that's my baby. I have interest in you know, actually doing that. So let me do it. And I think he's perfect for the role. I think we've seen what Johan can do. He was the game main programmer and then the main game director for Europa Universalis Rome, I believe, for Hearts of Iron 2, Hearts of Iron 3. And I think he's just going to do a tremendous job. If you didn't know, you should check out in the Paradox forums and the official ones, Paradox Plaza, you should check out the Imperator forums, because somewhere down there is an application link for the beta for the game. And if you have any interest in that area, you know, if you have any interest in checking for bugs, giving feedback on essential loops, you know, and so on, then you should check in over there. I'm certain that they need more willing people to test their games, that they need more willing people that actually know how to beta test, which means frequent and good feedback, being able to reproduce a bug or something similar, and so on, you know. I'm going to give him a skirmisher right here, and then can't give him anything else because our stuff is down anyway, but got to think about that one. Okay, I think next we want to do the Großraumwirtschaft. So, you know, all in all, I think tremendous project, tremendous respect for anybody and everybody in the project, and if you are willing and able to be a good beta tester, please apply, because you will help the development, you will help Paradox, and you will help the end result pretty much. So I don't think there are any drawbacks in that regard, except maybe loss of time, because the game will be so good that it kind of grinds you to a halt. You got to imagine the following, just to look at the scale, right? And I mean, Hearts of Iron 4 has incredibly tiny provinces all over the world, mostly because it's a more fluid experience than other games. You know, you still have the major regions and whatnot, but your troops move through these tiny provinces. But in Europe, I always say Europa Universalis Rome. What I mean, of course, is Imperator. In Imperator, Corsica has, and stay seated, because you need to sit down for a while after hearing this, has 10 provinces. 10 goddamn provinces, 10 cities in that region of Corsica. And I think that'll be amazing. Just the idea of conquest, you know, when you conquer the entirety of the Italian peninsula, and then you look at it and you're like, holy moly, that's a ton of provinces, and it actually feels like an achievement to have conquered all of it. I think Johan is going for the right kind of deal here to have a good sense of immersion. But yeah, that's enough sucking off Paradox. I'll do it all the time because I just love their games. I love what they do, and I know that sometimes they deliver games that at launch aren't perfect, far from it, but they're always a company that succeeds in actually advancing them, that actually goes above and beyond in creating a game that at the end of the day comes out well. And I think that's admirable. I remember in 2006 when Hearts of Iron 2 Doomsday released, I remember Victoria Revolutions, and they have come a long, long way. But that's enough of Paradox, I think. You don't have to, can't give them too much leeway or they get complacent, you know. You gotta make it clear here what matters, and that is good performance, which I'm sure they have at the moment. Okay, as you're able to see right there, we were able to save 2 civilian factories because we were, come on, okay, now only 1 anymore, but 2 civilian factories because we built the refineries, and those refineries help us come out on top later in the game, especially because they can be buffed simply by researching right here, +1, +1, +1, +1. So at the end, currently they're producing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here also 6. So every refinery will be +6 when we're done with researching all of this. Maybe in 1943 we don't even have to do that anymore because we have access to the Caucasus and maybe, hopefully, Southeast Asia. But if we don't, we're prepared. If we don't, then we can just do it right there. Alright, what else is going on in the world? Don't know if you heard it. Modern Day mod and Modern Day 4 have merged. They're now one mod for Hearts of Iron 4. I'm not sure if a version already released, and I may or may not be playing that in the future. The only issue I have personally is that the performance is atrocious. I'm on a Ryzen 1600, and you know, like, it's an upper medium kind of core that I have, and nobody can tell me that is a good performance. Those mods are just kind of bloated. Oh, there you go. Especially, you know, you can't deny it. Especially the Modern Day 4 mod is incredibly bloated. Let's take a look here. How many units can we actually send them? Only 2? Alright, fair enough. I will send them tanks with Rommel. Oh, if we do that, now that I remember, if we do that, what's gonna happen is just the tanks will be, like, Rommel will be gone, because the game assumes that he just joined a new army despite being sent with his old army into a volunteer situation. But volunteers count as new armies. As you can see, he's currently gone from the game. He's not, you know, his army isn't anywhere to be seen, and neither is he, which means that he will be AFK when we send him to Spain and only return a bit later. So we're going to align Hungary and Romania, and here's an easy way to explain why. integrate war economies. Hungary and Romania gain 4 military factories. We also gain a total of 8, and both of them become our puppets. This is an incredible focus. It's insane what kind of focus this is. It gives us two free puppets that we can then demand troops from. It's just, you know, there's no way to overstate the value of that decision. Also, our Spanish troops have arrived, and we now should focus on Spain. So we're right over here. We're not going to care for this. This is cut off, so it's pretty much done anyway. And we're going to drive down here and try to do a nice little encirclement down this route. Alright, come on down. Let's take a look at the strengths of these units. I think that we do want to attack over here, maybe. Oh. They're not cut off in Catalonia yet, but this one is definitely gone. Okay, I will just march in here then if you want to leave it empty, my friend. And take Madrid, if we can, and we indeed can. Now the question is, will Republican Spain actually move in with anything over here? The AI in this patch, which is something that confuses me a lot, the AI in this patch doesn't seem to be filling gaps in the front line as quickly as they have done in the past. Maybe it was just because I played with the better frontline AI mod. Nope, then he wants to go in. Alright, that's perfect. That's enough. That's good enough. So that means we won't be cut off. And Madrid has indeed fallen. If we can take this, we will take in at least 2 units. This might be more than 1, but at least 2. And that's important. That is extremely important, in fact. This one is looking good in the defense. So I think the Spanish Civil War is a very good showcase as to why armored units are so overpowered in the early game, which is intended, by the way. It's a strategy, it's a tactic. It's not, you know, incredibly overpowered. It's simple. You have a unit that does something, and the enemy doesn't have something that counters that unit, which means, since they don't have an anti-tank, we just win. You know, you just look at this. I take no casualties at all, while their units are dying. See that? Every like 3 or 4, or maybe more. You know, I don't want to overestimate you, but like every few hours, one of their strength points goes down, so they lose 1% of strength. And what they're doing here, for example, by the way, is the same thing. The Spanish Civil War, I don't know why exactly it is, because I don't have the composition of their troops in mind, but the Spanish Civil War essentially hinges on both of the factions having very ineffective units. Whenever they attack, they just lose manpower. So whoever attacks more at the start of the war is essentially the loser. And we see exactly the same thing happen here as well. As you can see, all of the units attacking me are suffering to a huge degree. Especially when you're attacking over a river, you moron. Right now it looks like we won't be... Ah, there you go. Alright, we did advance there then. Yeah. Now the question is... They can't cut us off, but they could. Yeah, that's what they're going for. No, I will stop you right there. I won't actually cross the river. I just want you to not take that, so that these units remain cut off until the Spanish put something in here. Alright, and with that, by the way, I almost didn't notice the time. We have reached the general 30-minute limit that I want to keep in these videos. Thank you for watching. I am One Proud Bavarian. If you thought you were entertained, or it was just informative, or you just want to listen to some dude ramble while he plays because his ego got hurt in a multiplayer game, subscribe, share, like, and do all the usual stuff. See you in the next video, and have a good night.